You're listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. From our studios come special guests and netball commentary, exclusively on YouTube.
G'day listeners and welcome to the 3 Feet Radio Show. We're back on air after a break after the Australia-New Zealand Test Series, which the Diamonds won convincingly. Woohoo, go Diamonds. But that's for another day. And joining me in the studio today to discuss some issues is my co-host, Luke Herbert. G'day, Luke.
G'day, Ben. And as James Bond found out in the movies, diamonds are forever.
What's that reference alluding to, Luke?
Well, that fell flat. It's a title of a James Bond film, which I'm sure the listener would have been aware of. If not, well, they're not 007 savvy.
Diamonds are forever. Yes, that makes complete sense now. G'day to Lisa Alexander, the Diamonds coach, who is a regular listener to our show too. Congratulations also, Lisa, for being awarded Coach of the Year at the recent Australian Netball Awards. But just to get things started here, Luke, there's been a couple of issues that have come up in the last couple of weeks about with regards to ANZ Championship netball and international netball too. One of them is the rule changes, and I think the wider reasoning for these changes is to speed the game up and to also make it a bit more viewer friendly.
Oh, they are. And you know, just speaking of making it more viewer-friendly, and you and I were talking about this off air, and I think this is, you know, quite an important change, is that, you know, when a goal is scored, the umpires aren't going to blow their whistles anymore.
Yeah, Luke, and it's also going to be when the ball is clearly out of court. And I think the reason why it's a good thing that it's being removed is because it hopefully will speed up the game, like I said, but also because people know a goal's been scored. People don't need to hear a whistle to confirm that the goal's been scored. If they're watching, they know the goal's been scored. And if the ball's out of court, they know that the ball's out of court. They don't need to be reiterated again. People are smart enough to know. It's not like they're little kids in kindergarten. They need to be told everything.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case, and you and I were talking about a comparison to AFL off air, and it's worth noting, for those not familiar with AFL, it shares the one thing in common with netball. You know, you're aiming to put the ball and people into space in a very, you know, very general or generalization I'm making there, and we were talking about how a lot of the time the AFL umpires, even at the top level, communicate verbally with the players, whether it be telling them a kick hasn't gone 15 metres, or the advantage rule's kicking in, or they've got so much time to, you know, take their shot at goal. And, you know, that works perfectly fine in AFL, so why wouldn't it work in netball?
I think it could work in netball, Luke, but it would have to take time to introduce it. And just to put it out on the record here, I do work for the AFL umpiring department, but I can't really say too much else other than that. I think if the communication thing was introduced to netball, it would be a lot better. But as I said just before, it would take a while to implement. But at the same time too, I think people are just used to the whistle being blown and very little, but not much verbal communication between umpires and players. But I think if that relationship can be improved, I think it would be beneficial for all at all levels of our great game of netball.
Oh, it will be, and it'll be beneficial for, you know, the spectators, and I don't know so much for the players, and also, we're just only going to briefly touch on this, the renaming penalty sanctions, to use the wording from a summary. So the word penalties has been changed to sanctions. Sanctions will include free pass shot, throw-in and toss-up are considered actions as opposed to sanction or penalties under the current version. Now, is there anything you want to mention about that before we, you know, get on to what's actually important, like we were just touching upon and other stuff?
Yeah, probably not really including the sanctions issue. I think it just should have been still called penalties. I think the centre pass thing is a good thing, because usually you've seen some of the quick centre quarters, like when, for example, Nat Von Berde used to play. I can remember her being pulled up for her 2 feet not being in the circle, but a lot of the faster mid-quarters now, because we know how quick the game has become in the last couple of years, that they only need one foot in and the game won't be held up with a whistle again to them to have their 2 feet in the circle when they're starting the game again from the centre circle.
Yeah, and the wording in the summary we have here is when taking a centre pass, the centre is only required to now only have 1 foot wholly within the centre circle, and I think that'll be one to watch just to see the effect it will have, or the flow-on effect, you know, the centre to the wing attack or the feeders, the mid-court. And yes, I think it's suitable in terms, as you say, the game has sped up, and I think that will only assist it. How it goes at the lower levels of netball, like club level, I'm not so sure. That isn't meant to be put down. It's just meant to reflect the fact that the game at the top level is now, fast-paced and quite physical, and the physicality we've discussed on previous shows, so we won't go into that now. But, kick us off with the next rule change, Ben.
It is. It says here, once a player taking a penalty passes in the correct position, the player may choose either to play the ball immediately or to wait for the infringer to stand out of play. However, it is important to note that the changes for the rule regarding the taking of the penalty pass do not remove the requirement for a player who is sanctioned for a major infringement to stand out of play.
Now, I think this is going to be an advantage to the team that's been awarded the penalty, or should I say sanction, because tactically, the delay that was in or caused by the previous rules may have given the defenders a chance to get into better position and try and shut down the opportunities for the player who's been awarded the pass, or the penalty, sorry. Now, tactically, there may be an advantage to taking the pass straight away. And if not, then the player doesn't necessarily have to do that. Of course, you still have the 3-second rule, so it is very much encapsulated within the time a player has to do something with the ball. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ben?
I've only got probably one thing to say about that, and I think the decision for him to play the ball immediately, it might therefore mean we see sometimes a more free-flowing sort of a game. I mean, particularly inside the shooting circle there. Sometimes it just looks like it's a rugby scrum. So many players there, and then the whistle gets blown, and then they've all got to stand out again. So hopefully that'll speed up that part of the game. But then the next change we've got is the all injury and illness stoppages, which include blood will be 30 seconds, and the injured player must come off the court. We've seen countless times in the past, Luke, players be treated on the court, or players just call an injury or illness stoppage for tactical reasons. So do you think that'll cut out the whole technical element of the stoppage thing?
Well, it'll certainly stop the fake timeouts. Coaches may still engineer an injury timeout to change a player. Yeah. And there's no actual injury. The problem, as people have pointed out in the Netball Scoop forum, may be that it's not enough time for a seriously injured player to come off the court. But true. I think with this rule change, it's going to be evolutionary. And my hope is that it is moving towards a tactical interchange bench that allows for purely tactical changes to be made and injured players to come on and off. But that was perhaps too much of a bigger leap this time. And what do you think about that, Ben?
I think it's probably a good idea. Like you said, we'll see tactical changes, but I think in reality, I think the umpires will be accommodating of if it is a more serious injury, it'll be over 30 seconds. I really think they will be, and I think they'll use their wider judgment to ensure that they don't just be pedantic about the 30 seconds, say, oh, okay, that player needs assistance, it'll only be 30 seconds. I think they'll give them more time than 30 seconds. I think there'll be common sense will be applied in those instances.
I would think so as well. And, to kind of demonstrate how umpires already do that, I'm sure that unless you're new to the ANZ Championship or top-level netball, you'll be aware that umpires don't call every little bitty argy-bargy that occurs off the ball. If they did that, the whole game would ground to a complete halt.
And it would slow it right down, and we'd have like what we done with American football, where it's just stoppage after stoppage after stoppage, and we'd see a very slow game. And just the last rule change too, Luke, it says goaltending will no longer be allowed. Players will not be able to deflect a shot once the ball is in a downward flight towards the ring, although including touching the ball up through the net. So that sort of has held the game up quite a few times I've seen, where a player will like punch the ball or that sort of thing. But you were saying off air that this doesn't really apply to things like the Harrison hoist, etc.
Well, this has again been discussed on the Netball Scoop forum, and if anyone's listening in who belongs to that forum, hello and thank you for tuning in. Some were saying that it doesn't necessarily ban the Harrison hoist, but it means that if a player is hoisted, they can't deflect the ball when it's on its downward flight. So it would make the maneuver more difficult to do within the rules. I'm not really convinced of the need for that rule change. I think athleticism and innovation should be rewarded, not penalised. And, Harrison hoist is a great legacy for the athleticism of Anna Harrison.
It is. Seen it live. Saw it live quite a few times when it came off, and it was great to watch. And I'm sure you did too, Luke.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times, and that's really the only rule change that I really have any doubts about. As I mentioned, I think the changes to injury timeouts are hopefully evolutionary, so a step in the right direction, and I don't have any beefs with the rest. And On the whole, I think it's good to see that the rule changes are being made to improve the game, Ben. And yet, we're not necessarily seeing anything like the 2-point goal or anything like that, but we're still seeing necessary changes.
And just moving along though too, Luke. And sorry to cut you short there, but we have got a few other things to cover. It is the new Silver Ferns coach in Janine Southby, and it's interesting that she did get the job because she has got a good record of player development at the Steel and with the New Zealand lower age group sides, particularly the 21s, I think it was. She only won 3 games in the 2015 ANZ Championship season. So why do you think she got the job? Was it because of the play development stuff she's done or because of what she's done with the Steel?
Well, I think you're onto it there, Ben. I think Netball New Zealand looked at the fact they had a serious shortage of top-level coaches, and they saw that Southby had done a very good job of player development at the Steel. You look how Storm Purvis has developed as a defender, or how much Brooke Lever has improved in one season at the Steel. Desert is 2 examples, I don't want to go over the entire Steel squad, but, and when you factored that in, they thought that with the Silver Ferns entering a new 4-year cycle, and it's going to be new players entering the international arena, that would be a good aspect to have in the Silver Ferns coach. But I also think too, and you and I touched upon this off air a little bit, that people like myself were expecting Julie Fitzgerald, the Australian, and she's currently coaching the Magic, to get the job. She certainly had the experience and the CV for it. So do you think there were factors that Netball New Zealand won't necessarily admit to publicly that were involved?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at Julie's also previously been a Diamonds assistant coach. There was conjecture for a while she may have become the Diamonds coach a number of years ago, and she coached the Australian under-21 side as well. So, I think they were. There's a few things there that Netball New Zealand haven't revealed publicly, and also you have to look to the Robbie Deans example, what he did with the Wallabies. There was not necessarily a lot of success when he coached the Wallabies, so it probably shows that outsiders may not understand the culture. But you look what Julie's been doing with the Magic. It seems to be that the Australian netball culture and the New Zealand netball culture have fused together quite well when she's been coaching New Zealand side. So you don't really know. It's sort of a double-edged sword, that particular aspect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I just want to point out that we're not actually being critical of Netball New Zealand. It's just a wording we've used here because we try to stay fairly relaxed and casual on this program. So, I hope the listener doesn't misinterpret what we're saying here. And I think there's no doubt that Julie Fitzgerald is doing a terrific job at the Magic. You only look at how much a player like Harton improved under her coaching, and how the young midcourters are coming.
Halpenny too.
And
Halpenny as well.
Yeah, Halpenny had a bit of a down season, in the ANZ Championship just gone by, but she signed on again for the Magic, so she certainly doesn't think it's anything to do with the coaching. But
no, not at all.
And yeah, I do think on some level Netball New Zealand, when they did the hire, they probably did look to Robbie Deans and time at the Wallabies, like you said, and they just thought, okay, Robbie Deans isn't Julie Fitzgerald, but do we want to take the risk? And they've opted not to take the risk. And also, while we're speaking of player development, I think because Julie Fitzgerald is doing such a good job at the Magic, it also probably in a way prevented it from getting the Silver Ferns job, as illogical as that sounds. They may have been thinking that said, well, we want Julie Fitzgerald to keep developing these players at the Magic.
Correct.
And, if she keeps doing an excellent job there, there'll be future Silver Ferns, and there'll be, less work that Southby has to do at the top level, because it brings up a point that, we haven't really touched on the show, and we will likely come back to it on later shows, is where is the best place for top level netball players to develop. And while some development takes place at the international level, you'd have to think most of it would happen at the ANZ Championship level and the new second tier competition that will be starting next year in New Zealand.
And finally, the second tier competition. I read about that the other day, and I put my hands in the air and said, yay. Netball in New Zealand has been crying out for something like this for so long. We've talked about a lack of development pathways. We've talked about why New Zealand need to follow the lead of Netball Australia like they have with the ANL. It's great this is finally happening, Luke, albeit a bit late.
It's late, but it's finally happened here, and you've only got to go back to our great chat with Mark Foster to see the value and importance of it. And look, just to touch upon it briefly, it's going to take a few years to see the benefits. It could even be 3, perhaps even 4 years. But, by the time the next Commonwealth Games or World Cup rolls around, the benefits of having that extra level or layer of player development and having players that aren't quite so raw starting out in the ANZ Championship will be starting to come through.
And we have to remember too, we're recording this show before the new still coach has been named as well.
Yeah, we are, and that's a good point, Ben. And, the still coach may be named today or tomorrow, in which case our schedules just couldn't quite meet up with that, which is unfortunate. But whoever it is, I wish them well in the role, and they're inheriting certainly some very good players. It's just a matter of building their confidence and binding together good tactics and game plans that will produce the results.
Yeah, and I'm sure the good friend of the show and a good friend of yours and mine, Luke, in one, Kate Buchanan, if we wish to have the new coach on the show, it shouldn't be a problem because Kate's been a supporter of our show in the past and she's been very helpful.
Oh, yes, and I'm going to actually come back to Kate Buchanan a bit later on in the show, but, heads up to the great job she's done with the Still memberships this year. But before we wish the listeners a Merry Christmas and we leave them to their ham, turkey and barbecues on the beach, we're going to just, take a brief look at the ANZ Championship draw for next season. And why don't you take the first time to pass on that, Ben?
I can do that, Luke. It's interesting that there's less Monday night games. I mean, there's obviously still some, but it appears to me that they're trying to make the fixture a bit more fan-friendly. Fan-friendly in some ways, but at the same time, too, 5 o'clock games on a Saturday. Are they going to work? Are they going to work? I say going to work, Luke, because 5 o'clock, there's junior netball on and there's club netball, and then you've got people who play football codes who might want to go with their kids to netball. Usually games are over by 5 o'clock, and you can't rush home and be at a netball game by 5 o'clock all of the time.
Yeah, and I think that'll largely be the same in New Zealand of Saturday sport. I think perhaps for the juniors who play earlier on in the day, it'll be all right, but for some of the older players, it may be games starting around the 4 o'clock mark. May not be able to get to them, but it may be better in a large country town like Invercargill where, that they might play their club game at the same venue as the Steel play and they can just, get changed and walk over. But
yeah, correct.
say in Melbourne, as you allude to, where you actually have factors like traffic and commuter time, time on public transport. I can possibly see that as being a bit of a downer. But that said, for younger fans that are still school age and in their earlier schooling years, they won't be denied the chance to go to the games because they need to be in bed at a certain time, which I think is good.
Correct. And the other point, too, that I thought was worth covering is, are Sky Sports New Zealand still able to dictate the fixture? The way it's been pitched to us by the ANZ Championship management, it appears like maybe that, although Sky Sports New Zealand do contribute, I think you said to me off there, 70% of the money for the competition, it looks like they're not able to dictate the fixtures as much as they maybe once did.
Well, the figure is around the 70% mark, and I think it comes down to what you and I have been talking on and off air for a long time, and we've talked about it probably for nigh on, not quite 10 years, but let's say 7 or 6 years, and we've talked about it a bit about it on air as well. And on-demand TV in New Zealand has really taken off this year in terms of subscribers to services like Netflix and their competitors, and just watching on-demand programs through the likes of TVNZ. And I actually had a bit of experience with it too, thanks to Kate Buchanan and Steel and Sky. I won a Sky Fan Pass, which allowed me to stream the Sky Sports channels for a couple of days when the Silver Ferns were playing in the Constellation Cup. Actually, it was a week, I think. And while in that case it just gave me access to the Sky Sports channels, it showed the changes that are underway. And if we just look at on-demand TV away from sport just for a moment, you see people with their 3 or 4 devices in the house and they're watching the program when it suits them and the content that suits them. And suddenly the time people are watching these programs isn't to a regular schedule anymore. So
yeah, that's right.
I think that's perhaps why Sky TV is able to be a little more flexible with the game times and when they start, I think. Well, that's my take on it. What do you think, Ben?
I think it's good that you can now get the games on demand, but it's a bit unfortunate that it's only in Australia and all the games will be live streaming via the app here in Australia. But what about New Zealand? Yes, Sky have the rights in New Zealand, but then again, though, Fox Sports have the rights here. Isn't it the same thing?
Well, I think Sky Sports and Sky Pay TV in general is in a transition point. The number of subscribers Sky has been dropping because of the rise of on-demand TV, and while they still have the rights to the ANZ Championship, and you can watch it via Fan Pass if you say you only want to watch the grand final. Otherwise, cost-wise, it's not economical to do it long term.
Correct.
You also have other sports. I think it's the Premier League and golf are now online via on-demand services. So Sky has been slow to adapt to the new frontier, but ultimately this is good for consumers, Ben, because gradually Sky TV is having its monopoly on live sports coverage in New Zealand challenged, and while that in a way falls beyond the domain of this program, I'm not going to go into it any further today because we need to leave the listeners to their day. Ultimately, I think it's good. It's going to require some adjustment from the ANZ Championship and Netball New Zealand, but we've talked a little bit about that on and off air too over the years, and Netball New Zealand and the ANZ Championship and Netball Australia, they've had a long time to prepare for this.
Yeah, they have. It's been a long time coming, but hopefully what we will see is that the streaming and on-demand is available in New Zealand too, because as like you said, they just have to look at how popular on-demand like Netflix and Stan, etc. are becoming in New Zealand, away from the sports market or away from netball.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see where Sky TV takes its Fan Pass service. If it continues to be just access to the Sky Sports channels, or if in time they offer specific access to, say, just a season worth of ANZ Championship games at a fixed price. And ultimately, I think that's where it will go, but that is for another discussion. And before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to add to the Christmas stocking, Ben?
I'd just like to wish all our listeners a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hopefully you get everything you wanted. If it is an ANZ Championship membership for your team, that's great because you can get along to see the games.
Yeah, and I just wish all our listeners to stay safe over the Christmas New Year period, and we will join you again after we're back from barbecue season.
You've been listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. Tune in next time for more special guests and netball commentary exclusively on YouTube.